Part 21. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womang. Chapter 201. However, listening to Suliang's words, Qin Binjao had a confused look on her face. She widened her eyes and looked cute. After a long time, she finally came to her senses and said with a smile, "Don't worry, Suliang. I live a happy life. Master used to accompany me, but now that I have husband, Yao is really happy. How can I say it's hard work?" After saying this, Suliang shook his head and laughed. On the contrary, I was too quick to empathize. My girlfriend was actually stronger and more optimistic than I thought. So. That's fine, Binjao, I will always be with you and never leave. The two hugged each other again and chatted for a while, feeling the warm atmosphere. For a moment, they didn't want to move. In fact, there was no intention of experiencing this Daxia style at all. Whether it is Suliang or Qin Binjao, as long as they have each other around them, it really doesn't matter where they are. But as it got darker, Qin Binjao suddenly jumped up from Suliang's arms and said excitedly, Suliang, let's go to the hot springs together. I'm very familiar with this mansion. There is actually a natural hot spring in the back. Sister Ying has been arranging for people to clean it. It's very clean and you can take a bath at any time. Besides, Suliang, the hot springs here are more comfortable than the hot springs in the hot spring resorts I met on the roadside during the 100 sex contest. Do you want to try it? Originally, Suliang had no idea of taking a hot spring bath, but seeing his girlfriend's vivid introduction successfully piqued his interest. Okay, let's go together. Suliang stood up and said to his girlfriend with a smile. Go. Seeing that her man agreed, Qin Binjao was even happier. She pulled her boyfriend and soon came to the hot spring hidden in the mansion. After taking off their coverings and changing into bathrobes, the two held hands and stepped into the hot spring. After his whole body was soaked in the hot spring, Suliang let out a long sigh of comfort. He felt that this hot spring was indeed as comfortable as his girlfriend said. The water quality of the hot spring is not very clear. According to what only Suliang can understand, both the water temperature and the various minerals contained in the water are far superior to all the hot springs Suliang has seen. Not to mention, there seems to be traces of spiritual energy contained in this hot spring. Along with the water flow, it washes the body, making people feel like they are falling into the clouds, and they are drifting and confused. All I can say is that they are worthy of being a member of the royal dynasty and really enjoy themselves. And just then, Qin Binjao suddenly came to Suliang's side. She held the edge of the bathrobe with her slender hands and suddenly untied the bathrobe. She lay on Suliang's body and said in a soft voice, Suliang, let me help you wipe your back up. Say it. Just use your own pair of proud peaks that need to grow up. It seems that they are rubbing shoulders, but in fact, feel the smooth and moist touch behind her, especially the pair of proud peaks that are waiting to grow. In addition to being soft, there is an elasticity that Tan Qinjia and Wanqing don't have at all. Not long after, Suliang turned over and pressed his girlfriend against the edge of the pool. Binjao, you are making me angry. Humph, it's just irritating. Qin Binjao's voice was soft and charming, her eyes were rippling, and her brows were springy. They were so alluring that Suliang immediately leaned over. While fighting with her boyfriend, Qin Binjao was extremely excited. Without the interruption of master, today, I want to have a lot of fun with Suliang. However, without her master, within half an hour, Qin Binjao lay on the shore, begging for mercy. Suliang, I can't do it anymore. I saw. At this moment, Qin Binjao almost had love in her eyes, her cheeks were flushed, and even her jade-white skin was covered in patches of pink. Her expression was extremely charming, her delicate body was limp, and she had almost no strength. But at this time, Qin Benjio suddenly thought of something, and hurriedly used the secret technique to send a message to the master. Teacher, master, you, guess, ugh, what am I doing? On the other side, Tan Kinja, who was listening to her apprentice's voice transmission, was almost furious. With your intermittent words and occasional muffled hums, there's no need to guess what you're doing. The two of us have been with Liang many times. Do you think I can't hear it? Oops, you traitor, you just want to eat it yourself, but you dare to provoke the master. I just wanted to rush back and catch the couple on the spot. Early the next morning. Early in the morning, the sun had just risen, and many people were still sleeping. At this time, in the mansion where Qin Benjio and Suliang lived, Ying Kaoj suddenly arrived. Although it was only morning and not many people saw it, Ying Kaoj was still neatly dressed, wearing a phoenix robe, a rosy crown, and tied up her long red hair. She had a delicate and beautiful face and a majestic and cold temperament. After entering the mansion, Ying Kaoj went straight to the bedroom without any hesitation, looking for Qin Benjio. It seemed that he had never considered the fact that his sister had not gotten up yet. Originally, as a cousin, she thought she knew her cousin very well even though she only saw her a few times a year. Whether it was when Ying Kaoj and Qin Benjio played together when they were children, or when Qin Benjio came back every year, Ying Kaoj never saw Qin Benjio staying in bed and getting up late. Even though Qin Benjio has a man now, she is definitely not lazy, right? Therefore, Ying Kaoj originally thought that his sister would get up early, so he didn't have too many worries at all. When he came to the bedroom, he opened the door without any hesitation. However, as soon as she stepped into the room, she witnessed a very unpleasant and beautiful scene in the room. I saw Qin Benjio, the sister she came to look for this time, was lying in Lang Jun's arms at the moment, her cheek pressed tightly against Lang Jun's chest, her hands wrapped around Lang Jun's neck, her eyes closed, and she was sleeping soundly. Even because she slept so comfortably, Qin Benjio had an indescribable happy smile on her face, and some crystal water flowed from the corners of her mouth, dripping onto Suliang's chest. It seemed that a lot of it had accumulated. This look is cute, but now it's so embarrassing. In addition, the clothes they wore yesterday were all thrown to the ground and scattered very unevenly. Anyone could see what the two people did last night? There was no sound in the room, but details like these tortured Ying Kaoj, a single man. At this moment, looking at this scene, Ying Kaoj felt a little confused. Is this still my sister? How did the holy, cold, arrogant, and innocent sister she once was become like this? Looking at her current appearance, there is nothing holy or cold and arrogant about her. She is clearly an innocent girl who is addicted to love and wants to be intimate with her lover all day long. Simply. So exciting. Take another look, I love it. Therefore, Ying Kaoj couldn't help but take a second look. But then, Ying Kaoj's pretty face turned red, a little embarrassed. After all, his sister was still sleeping with her brother-in-law. It was already a bit wrong to barge in on her own, and it was really inappropriate to watch her so blatantly. Thinking in his mind, Ying Kaoj tidied up his appearance, put his hands on his belly, and then restored his dignified and luxurious appearance. It was only then that her eyes fell on Suliang. This young man does have good looks, good talent, but that's all, right? Where did this Suliang get such charm? How could he convince his younger sister? She knew very well that her sister had always been very arrogant. She originally thought that she would never find anyone who could like her in her life, but who knew that she would appear in the blink of an eye. Such a young man captured the heart of his sister. But at this moment, Suliang's eyelids trembled as if he felt something in his heart. He opened his eyes and looked in the direction of Ying Kaoj. Someone is coming? After blinking, Suliang looked back, pushed his girlfriend, and said softly, "Benjeo, get up quickly, your cousin is here." Well. Chin Benjeo snorted and was woken up while she was sleeping comfortably. Naturally, she got a little angry and slapped her boyfriend's hand away. Chin Benjeo curled up in her boyfriend's arms and moved back and forth, refusing to get up. "No, no, Sulang, don't say anything, just let me sleep for a while, just for a while." After that, his breathing became even again. Seeing his girlfriend's appearance, Sulyang felt a headache. He quickly shook his girlfriend and said, "Get up, your cousin is still watching. It doesn't matter if we look like this." Well. This time, Chin Benjeo raised her head, looked vaguely towards the door, and said, "Hello, good morning, Sister Ying. You can sit down wherever you want, and I'll sleep for a while." After saying that, he fell into his boyfriend's arms and continued to sleep. Seeing this, Sulyang was completely speechless. "Now is not the time for you to be cute and silly. Are you embarrassed to let people watch you sleep?" Then. Snapped. Sulyang slapped his girlfriend on the erect area behind her back, making a clear and sweet sound to wake her up. "Really? Ouch!" Chin Benjeo exclaimed, jumped up, looked at her boyfriend with wide eyes, aggrieved and tearful. After a while, the two finally got up, dressed neatly, and came to Ying Kao's side. However, at this time, Chin Benjeo didn't even dare to sit down. She could vaguely see the upturned part behind her, which seemed to be even more upright. Chin Benjeo just stood there without saying a word, but whether she looked at Sulyang or Ying Kao, her eyes were filled with resentment and dissatisfaction. This kind of look in his sister's eyes that he had never seen before made Ying Kao so embarrassed that he wanted to run away immediately. After all, the younger sister looked at her husband. Although she was resentful, she was also full of love and understanding. But what about her? It's just resentment and anger. If it weren't for me, I'd be afraid that my sister would still be sleeping peacefully with her husband, right? At this moment, Ying Kao simply doubted his life and felt that I was superfluous. And just when Ying Kao was embarrassed, Sulyang was also observing Ying Kao. Volume 1 Chapter 188 The Empress's black stockings even took me to a high-end club. Sulyang raised his brows when he looked at Ying Kao's slender legs vaguely exposed under his phoenix robe. "Hey, my girlfriend's cousin is wearing black stockings. Not to mention, the black stockings are quite suitable for my cousin. She is someone who wants to be the emperor. The existence of the black stockings gives her a bit of cold arrogance and majesty. They complement each other perfectly." But, where are you looking? This focus is simply wrong." Sulyang shook his head slightly, called back his attention, and observed Ying Kao again. Soon, Sulyang discovered that the protagonist didn't seem to have any disgust and dislike for him. After all, stockings are her own creation. If she really hates and despises herself, why would she wear them? But at this moment, Sulyang suddenly remembered that when he first met Ren Changshen, he didn't feel Ren Changshen's disgust and dislike for him. That is to say, is it possible that Ying Kao is holding back? Yes or no, you will know after testing it. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womeng. Chapter 202. Thinking in his mind, Sulyang said hello to Test, Win, ahem, Princess, good morning. Good morning to you too. Ying Kao nodded, but looked nervous. This made Sulyang look a little weird. He felt that he seemed to feel the same cuteness in this protagonist as his girlfriend. And just then, Ying Kao said, "Let's go, I will take you two to visit the capital. Especially Sulyang, this is your first visit. No matter what, I must fulfill my friendship as a landlord." In the prosperous capital, Ying Kao and Chin Benjeo were walking in the streets, visiting everything in the imperial capital. Because he was traveling, in order not to cause a sensation, Cao changed out of a phoenix robe at this time, but he was still wearing a complicated and luxurious palace skirt, which looked graceful, elegant, and full of majesty. Beside Cao, Qin Binjiao was holding Suliang's arm. The two of them were so close together that they seemed almost alone. Qin Binjiao introduced the grand delicacies in the imperial capital in a clear and logical manner, and arranged the itinerary in an orderly manner, with almost no room for Cao to interrupt. Thinking about it, although Qin Binjiao has always been in Tiandao sect and only comes back once a year, this is her hometown after all. She is naturally very familiar with the place where she has lived since she was a child. In desperation, Cao had no choice but to follow the two of them. Watching the two of them showing off their affection and torturing the dog, he was filled with heartache. Sulang, let me tell you, my Daxia dynasty has many specialties and delicacies, especially in Shengjing. There are many authentic delicacies that are not found in other places. It's not easy to come here, Sulang. You must have a good taste. Okay, okay. Suliang nodded and looked at Qin Binjiao with a doting look on his face. But at this moment, Qin Binjiao suddenly shouted, and then quickly ran to a vendor, bought a few gourmet pastries, held them in one hand, and returned to her man. Picking up the dessert and taking a bite, Qin Binjiao was extremely happy with it. She nodded with satisfaction and hurriedly handed it to her man. Sulang, try it. This lotus cake is my favorite thing to eat. This dish is named because it looks like a lotus. The skin is crispy, but the inner core has the delicate fragrance of lotus. It is sweet but not greasy, and has a far-reaching artistic conception. It is an authentic delicacy that is a specialty of Shengjing. I have to eat a lot of it every time I come back. Woolen cloth. Okay, let me try it. Suliang took it, put it in his mouth and took a bite. His eyes lit up. Indeed, as my girlfriend said, the skin is crispy but not crumbly, the inside is sweet but not greasy, and it has the fragrance of lotus. It tastes really good. Looking at the loving scene between the two, Cao on the side felt sour. After all, in the past, the one who was fed by my sister was me. And now, obviously my sister still holds a lot in her hands, but she is talking to her own man one by one, and she is not worthy of her cousin at all. After eating snacks, the three of them wandered forward again. Not long after, Cao stopped first, pointed to a luxury store on the roadside and said, "This is a very famous jewelry store in Daxia." The name Minjiao Xingfen means that the customers in the store are surrounded by the bright moon, and the jewelry in the shop is like stars dotting it, setting off the elegance and brightness of the bright moon. Oh, there are many good jewelry in terms of materials and styles. Of course, the price will not be cheap. Binjiao, why don't you and my sister go in and have a look? I will give you one as a gift for you. When he said these words, Cao looked like an understatement, highlighting his wealth. Okay, Sulang, let's go in and take a look. Qin Binjiao nodded happily, then pulled her man in and walked in. After picking and choosing, Qin Binjiao picked a hairpin and put it on her head. She looked at her boyfriend as if she was asking for praise. Sulang, look, does the one I picked look good? When Suliang heard this, he turned to look at his girlfriend and saw that between Qin Bing's silver hair, there was a hairpin carved from glossy white jade dotting it. The style of the hairpin is simple, and there are no carvings on it, but it is this style that complements Qin Binjiao's pure and cute temperament, which further highlights Qin Binjiao's holiness. Suliang couldn't help but give a thumbs up and praised, not bad, as expected of Binjiao, her vision is really good. Of course, this hairpin is just for decoration. If Binjiao wasn't wearing it with such pure and stunning beauty, no one would be able to control this elegant hairpin, and it would be covered in dust until it died. Hey. Listening to her boyfriend's praise, Qin Benjao smiled happily, with a shy pink color on her pretty face, but in her heart, she was extremely happy. Taking off the hairpin and asking the shopkeeper to put it away, Qin Benjao approached her boyfriend and whispered, "Sulang, it's hard to come here. I want to prepare one for Master and Sister Wan Sheng. Please help me pick one pick, how about it?" If they knew it was you who picked it, they would definitely be happy. Okay. Suliang nodded, not feeling anything wrong at all. But Yang Kaoj on the side heard Qin Benjao's whisper and was a little confused. Master, Sister Wanking? She did know that Master was Tan Kinja, the leader of Tiandao sect, and Sister Wan Qing, but she had no impression of her. But will they be happy if Suliang picks it? It's impossible that sect leader Tan, Sister Wan Qing, and his own 3 sisters are all related to him, right? No way, right? After leaving the jewelry shop, the 3 of them visited Shengjing again, chatting and laughing, and occasionally bought some specialties and delicacies to taste. The atmosphere was harmonious, which was just right. But right now, on the main road in Shengjing, a carriage was driving rapidly, as if there was something urgent. This carriage came from the tutor's mansion, but ever since the carriage came out, it has been driving so fast that ordinary people have no time to react. But the carriage drove along without any intention of giving way. When it saw pedestrians, it ran directly into them. This was a waste of care for the lives of pedestrians. It was unknown how many people were injured or killed along the way. And just then, in front of the carriage, there happened to be a little girl who couldn't dodge. She looked at the carriage speeding in front of her in panic and fear, not knowing what to do. None of the surrounding pedestrians dared to help, they all watched helplessly as this little loli was about to die under the carriage. And at this critical moment, base. There was a clear sword cry, and then a figure appeared in front of the carriage and stopped the speeding carriage. This figure is holding a long sword. The sword has been unsheathed. There is no sword light, but sharp and majestic sword pressure pours out from this man. The sharp intention that is almost tearing the sky apart. In an instant, the carriage was shocked and the forward momentum came to an abrupt halt. The person who took action was none other than Suliang. Oops! There was a scream and a figure, due to inertia, was caught off guard and was thrown out of the carriage. It flew several meters before landing on the ground, almost falling and bleeding. Who dared to block my carriage? The figure who was thrown out quickly stood up and looked around with anger, trying to find the person blocking his carriage. After seeing this man's appearance, the people around him immediately recognized his identity and subconsciously took a few steps back in panic. Just because, this person is the current Teifu. I saw. The Teifu's clothes were in tatters, stained with dust and vaguely stained with blood. He looked embarrassed. His eyes were sharp but confused as he looked around, as if he still didn't understand what was going on. Can be followed immediately. When he saw a figure, he immediately trembled all over. That is the princess. How could she appear here? Seeing Yang Kaoj's figure, the Grand Tutor trembled all over and hurriedly ran forward and fell to his knees on the spot. Wei Chen, please bow to the eldest princess. Oh, Teifu, Weikan, tisk, you still know that you are my minister in Daxia. Yang Kaoj's expression was calm, his eyes were full of indifference, and his aura was extremely majestic. He reprimanded mercilessly on the street, you dare to drive a car at a high speed on the main road of our capital of Great Xia, and waste the lives of the people. Do you know your sin? If someone hadn't rescued this little girl, I don't know what would have happened. This is what I see. In a place that I can't see, you, the Teifu, don't know how to be arrogant. Wei Chen is guilty. The Teifu hurriedly admitted his mistake, his body began to tremble violently, and cold sweat could not stop falling from his face. In an instant, it wetted his clothes. But at the moment, he completely ignored it and did not dare to make any move. He just explained, "I hope your highness will calm down and atone for your sins. Wei Chen is also in a hurry and is busy on his way, so he did such a wrong thing. Wei Chen knows his mistake. But I didn't expect it." Yang Kaoj looked cold, shook his head, his voice was extremely cold. "You yourself, go to the Ministry of Punishment to receive your punishment. I will ask the Ministry of Punishment later. If you don't go, or take advantage of your position to seek personal gain with power, you should know the consequences." Yes, thank you, Your Highness, thank you, Your Highness." The Tafo hurriedly kowtowed and thanked him. Seeing that this man did not let him die on the spot, he breathed a sigh of relief. He stood up quickly, not even daring to sit in the carriage, and walked quickly to the punishment department. After the Taifa was far away, the mother of the little loli who had been rescued by Suliang brought the little loli over. She knelt down on the spot and thanked her. "Thank you, Your Highness, for saving the little girl of the people. The girls and the people are grateful not enough. Get up quickly." Yang Kaoj helped the two of them stand up with his hands, but his attitude was slightly gentle. "Take your daughter to see the doctor quickly. Speaking of which, this matter is also the dereliction of duty of this palace and the imperial court. You two are not injured. You are already dead. Fortunately, a little money can be used as compensation, and it can be regarded as some of my thoughts." After that, he actually stuffed some money into the woman's hand before sending the woman and the little loli away. Seeing this scene, the surrounding passers-by began to talk one after another. They all lamented that the eldest princess Yang Kaoj was kind-hearted and fair. They all admired Yang Kaoj and were grateful. Listening to the discussions of the people around him, Suliang raised his eyebrows slightly. It seems that Yang Kaoj is very popular with the people. At this time, Yang Kaoj returned to Suliang and Qin Binjao, sighed, and pretended to reveal the situation inadvertently. "My father passed away a year ago, and when he was leaving, the great Xia unexpectedly no one can carry everything, so my father can only entrust one or two of them to take care of it. But with the death of my father, until now, in this great Xia, everything seems to be stable on the surface, but in fact, there are undercurrents surging inside, and many people have begun to become confused and have different intentions. However, they don't understand that once trouble occurs in the court, in the end, it will be the people of Daxia who suffer." At this point, Yang Kaoj looked at the people coming and going in front of him, and there was a trace of hope. "My wish is to give the people a peaceful life, and give them a peaceful and prosperous age." At this moment, Yang Kaoj looked firm, his eyes showed longing, and his whole body seemed to be shrouded in white holiness, looking radiant. Qin Binjao looked at Yang Kaoj with admiration and said, "Sister Yang, don't worry, I will support you." However, Suliang looked at Yang Kaoj with a meaningful expression. He has now guessed Yang Kaoj's true intention. After dealing with the tutor, Suliang and the others continued to walk forward, but not long after, they saw a luxurious small building in front of them. Countless dignitaries and dignitaries were walking among them. Carriages and horses were crowded outside the door. Grooms, attendants, boys, and people hawking along the street were coming and going, making this crowded scene look even more grand. Even the main road outside the small building is extremely congested. Qin Binjao looked at the small building curiously. "Sister Yang, what kind of place is this? Why are there so many people? I haven't seen it last year." After hearing this, Yang Kaoj introduced, "This building is called Tingyukshuan. You only appeared here after you left Shengjing last year. In just 1 year, Tingyukshuan has become famous. Noise became popular in Shengjing, and it has been like this since then. However, Tingyukshuan is also famous for its popularity. There are countless beauties in Tingyukshuan. Even the maids inside are rare and stunning beings in the world. There are also many talented and novel shows performed there. Because of this, Tingyukshuan has become a good place for entertainment in Shengjing. Dignitaries often pay attention to it, and the business is surprisingly good. Hearing this, Suliang immediately had an impression in his mind, and blurted out his complaints. It sounds so fresh and refined, but in fact, isn't it just a luxurious high-end club? Tisk, tisk, a high-end club can attract countless dignitaries. It seems that rich people's money is really easy to make. Immediately afterwards, Suliang looked at Yingkeoj and said, "Princess, I suggest that you send someone here to scan every once in a while to ensure that you make a lot of money." However, Yingkeoj said helplessly, "This Tingyukshuan is a regular place. There is nothing wrong with it. Scanning can be done, but how easy is it to find clues?" Suliang didn't care at all about this, looking indifferent. "This is quite simple, no problem, can't we just let them have problems? This requires a little wisdom, but it's actually not difficult. This matter may be possible." After blinking, Suliang's words made Yingkeoj's heart skip a beat, and some unspeakable things immediately emerged in his mind. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womeng. Chapter 203. It seemed that after Suliang's guidance, Yingkeoj had come up with some ideas. Qin Benjao, who was on the side, stared with beautiful eyes, looking at her man and sister talking about something she didn't understand, with a look of confusion on her face. Qin Benjao is a stupid little girl. Even if the cut is black, she still can't understand the conversation between her man and her sister. Now that you're here, let's go in and take a look. Yingkeoj came back to his senses and said to Suliang and Qin Benjao. Suliang nodded. It was natural, he also wanted to see what this kind of place in this world was like. As for Qin Benjao, she didn't even know where this place was, so naturally she wouldn't object. Then, following the crowd of guests coming and going, Suliang and the others successfully entered. However, the three of them had just stepped inside, and before Suliang could see the layout clearly, a charming elder sister came towards them and entangled the three of them. The eldest sister has a slender figure, a body as soft as boneless, a spring-like face, and a charming manner. Every frown, smile, and every move is full of charm, and the whole person looks very charming. Everyone she passed by, regardless of whether they were men or women, was attracted by her, especially the dignitaries. Even though they had experienced strong winds and waves and had seen too many beauties, at this moment, they still bent down slightly and showed respect. The eldest sister came to Suliang and the others, glanced at Yingkeoj, and then looked away as if she didn't recognize Yingkeoj. But Suliang, who had seen all the details, didn't think so. He clearly saw that the eldest sister's pupils shrank slightly when she saw Yingkeoj. Obviously, she knew Yingkeoj. By doing this, she was probably pretending that she didn't know her. However, Suliang didn't expose it directly, he just wanted to see what this eldest sister wanted to do. But then, Volume 1 Chapter 189 The Empress dances beautifully, and the beautiful woman has no misfortune. The eldest sister ignored Yingkeoj and became very close to Suliang. She leaned directly in front of Suliang and giggled. The pair of proud peaks swayed with the movements, full of charm. Is this what I heard from the slave family? The person in charge of Yukshuan and the official should be called Nujiazinu. Oh my, what a handsome little brother. In this city of Shengjing, it's not uncommon for dignitaries to roam everywhere, including a large number of geniuses. But people as handsome as my little brother are rare. Brother, this is your first time coming to Iting Yukshuan. The slave family has to entertain me well. As they talked, the charming elder sisters Inu and Suliang got closer and closer, and in the end, they even hugged Suliang's arm directly, crawled into Suliang's arms, and took the initiative to return the hug. "Brother, come with me quickly, the slave family will definitely arrange everything for me. For someone as handsome as my little brother, even if the slave family is asked to serve him personally, the slave family is very willing to do so." While talking, Xianu rubbed against Suliang's body, and the pair of proud peaks changed their shape several times. At this moment, what Suliang felt was the purple girl's soft and delicate body, her pair of proud peaks as soft as cotton, and the refreshing fragrance all over her body. It has to be said that Xianu herself is quite beautiful and extremely charming. To have such a charming beauty throw herself back and hug her is something that many people dream of, and they are eager to leave with Xianu right away. Xianu thinks the same way. She trusts her beauty very much. It stands to reason that since she is like this, no one can resist her. This little brother must also be like this and he will definitely react. However, but I didn't expect it. When she looked at Suliang, what she met was Suliang's gaze. Suliang didn't say a word, just looked at Xianu, but his eyes were burning, as if he had seen through Xianu, making Xianu feel that she couldn't keep any secrets in front of Suliang. Did he really see something? For a moment, Xianu was frightened, and she subconsciously let go of Suliang and took a step back. Immediately, Xianu quickly reacted, met the gazes of Suliang and the others, chuckled, pretended to be shy, and apologized. "Oh, the slave family is also a good girl. The slave family can't handle such a warm look from the younger brother. Guys, please help yourself. I will take my leave now." After that, he turned around and left, but called someone else to lead the three of them to visit Tingyukshuan. Then, Suliang and the other three followed the others and watched. Seeing how luxurious this place was, Suliang nodded, feeling that his horizons had been opened a bit. Qin Benjao, on the other hand, looked at the scenery all the way. Qin Benjao, who had never been to a place like this, had never seen such a scene before. Even though she was well informed, she still found it quite novel and enjoyed watching it. And at the same time, in the Tingyu Pavilion, there is a performance in the center of the stage. The cold and proud lady dressed in a snow-white gauze danced gracefully on the stage. The lady had a cold and proud face and a slender figure. The snow-white gauze covered her exquisite figure. When the clothes were flying, a touch of Snow White appeared. It can be described as a dance that captivates the city. Suliang stood under the stage and admired it for a moment, then nodded. It is indeed not bad. This level of dance can indeed attract many dignitaries. It is indeed worthy of the name Tingyukshuan. After hearing this, Qin Benjao showed off to her boyfriend. "Hey, Suliang, don't you know, Sister Ying can dance this kind of dance?" "You girl, you are talking nonsense. How can I dance like this?" Ying Kaoj denied it without even thinking about it. "Oh, if you win my sister, you only have to dance once." Qin Benjao was unyielding, hugging Ying Kaoj and begging, "When I was a child, I remember Sister Ying jumping over it. It was obviously very beautiful, but since then, I have never seen it again. I want to see it, I want to see it. Sister Ying, just dance once." While talking, Qin Benjao hugged Ying Kaoj and rubbed her back and forth, looking like a coquettish girl, staring at Ying Kaoj with pitiful watery eyes, like a small animal, which made Ying Kaoj feel uncomfortable all over. It was as if, as long as he didn't agree to her, he would be guilty of a heinous crime. Finally, Ying Kaoj sighed and said, "Okay, I promise you." Alas, after all, he was overflowing with sympathy, and he agreed to his sister's request so easily. However, fortunately it is my sister. After Xianu left, she did not return to the room. She sent someone to lead a tour, and after conducting an open and honest surveillance, she herself hid in the dark and watched Suliang and the others until they left. And wait until the three of them leave. Xianu immediately stood up and stepped back. After seeing no one around her, she went straight to a room in the deepest part of Tingyuxian. This is an absolutely forbidden area within Tingyuxian. No one is allowed to enter. This room does not even exist in the structure diagram of Tingyuxian. After entering the room, Xianu closed the door tightly, lit the incense, and then stood aside respectfully and waited. In just a moment, as the smoke condensed, a beautiful figure emerged from the smoke. Your Majesty, today, Yingkeoch and a man and a woman are visiting Tingyuxian. Xianu reported very respectfully. I know this, what else can I do? The beautiful figure spoke, but her voice was a little distorted. According to the observations of my subordinates, the young man next to Yingkeoch seems to be unusual. After sorting out her words, Xianu began to explain today's events one by one. After leaving Tingyuxian and wandering around for a while, Suliang and the others quickly returned to the mansion. Win sister, dance, dance. Qin Benjao hugged Yingkeoch and said excitedly. Okay, since I promised you, I will naturally do it. Yingkeoch nodded helplessly, you wait here for now. I have to go back to get some clothes and get ready. After waiting for a while, Ying Chao Singer returned to Suliang and Qin Benjao with a small package. The package seemed to contain a piece of clothing. After saying hello to Qin Benjao and Suliang, Yingkeoch went to other rooms. When he came back, he had already changed into a gorgeous dance skirt. At this moment, Yingkeoch's beautiful face seemed to have lost a lot of its cold, arrogant, and majestic look. Instead, it was replaced by the soft smile that a dancer always wears on his face before starting to dance. But it was the smile on Yingkeoch's face that not only did not disobey at all, but also made her beautiful face look much brighter and more attractive, and even the majestic aura of dominating the world became much weaker, and even more soft. At this moment, she is nowhere to be found, the eldest princess of the great Xia dynasty, or someone with the status of an emperor. All that can be seen is her extreme elegance, beauty, and heart-stopping beauty. I have made a fool of myself. Yingkeoch said softly, and then he danced gracefully while waving his sleeves and skirt. However, perhaps it was because he had not danced for a long time, or perhaps he had never danced in front of the opposite sex. At this time, Yingkeoch's pretty face was slightly red, her eyes could not help but look to the ground, and she felt a little shy in her heart. And it is precisely because of this shyness that Yingkeoch's dance is a bit difficult to let go. It is beautiful, but it seems that it still lacks a little artistic conception. But as the dance got better and better, Yingkeoch gradually became more focused. The words about her sister and brother-in-law watching, and the self-identity all disappeared, and everything in her mind was integrated into this dance. Then, Yingkeoch gradually adapted to it, her sleeves were flying, her skirt was fluttering, every frown and smile, every move made Yingkeoch become more and more bright and moving, showing off her beautiful dance freely. It's just like a dragon is startled in the world, the wind blows back to the snow, the phoenix flies and the luen is flying. Such a startled dance is simply beautiful to the extreme. At this moment, both Suliang and Qin Benjao were fascinated, staring intently and smiling. After a long time when Ying Chao Ji finished dancing, Qin Benjao and Suliang finally came to their senses from the beautiful scene and couldn't help but clap their hands. Suliang exclaimed, "Forgive me for being short of words. I really can't describe the beauty of the princess's dance in words. She really deserves to be a princess. Such a beautiful dance is really far beyond others." Well. Yingkeoch made a sound of unknown meaning. Listening to Suliang's words, she felt a little shy. Feeling the gazes of Suliang and Qin Benjao, even though she knew that their eyes were filled with admiration, Yingkeoch's shyness still made her feel uneasy. Then, Yingkeoch said, "I still have some things to deal with, so I'm going back first. I'll see you again when I have time." After that, he quickly turned around and hurried away again. After leaving Qin Binjiao and Suliang, Yang Kaoj went straight back to the palace, walked into his bedroom, and sat on a chair in the palace. Recalling everything he had gone through when he was with Qin Binjiao and Suliang, Yang Kaoj slowly pursed his red lips, and subconsciously placed his slender hands on his chest. She found that her mood at the moment was particularly relaxed and joyful because of her previous interactions with Qin Binjiao. It was as if there were no worries in her heart and no burden on her shoulders, which made her want to smile. This feeling was actually very unfamiliar to her. For a moment, even she herself didn't know whether her current mood was a good thing or not. At this moment, a maid appeared outside the door and said respectfully, "My maid pays homage to the eldest princess." Yang Kaoj's expression immediately returned to his cold, arrogant, and majestic look, and he asked, "What's the matter?" "The Queen Mother has an order to summon the eldest princess and order the servants to come and deliver the order." The maid bent down with great respect, not daring to raise her head to look at Yang Kaoj. Her attitude was impeccable. After hearing this, Yang Kaoj's expression immediately changed, becoming cold and serious. "Okay, I'll go right now." Yang Kaoj nodded, stood up, and followed the maid to the Queen Mother's palace to meet the Queen Mother. Meet the Queen Mother. Arriving at the Queen Mother's room, Yang Kaoj's expression was still so cold and serious, and he bowed slowly, which was regarded as a salute. At this time, a magnetic voice sounded in the palace, "Okay, you all, please step aside and let Kaoj and I talk alone for a while." After saying this, the maids all bowed and saluted, and quickly left the palace. It was only then that Yang Kaoj raised his head and looked at the gauze curtain in front of him, only to see an enchanting figure leaning on the bed behind the gauze curtain. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womeng. Chapter 204. That beautiful figure is charming and enchanting, with a plump and perfect figure. Even if it is just a beautiful figure, the pair of proud peaks on the chest and the rounded curvature of the straight part behind are clearly visible. She has a flat belly and a pair of beautiful and plump legs. Just leaning there, this beautiful figure makes people feel an extremely charming and lazy feeling. Just looking at the beautiful figure through the tool can make people's hearts beat. At this time, the beautiful figure from behind the gauze curtain, whose voice was full of magnetism and slightly charming and hoarse, sounded again, "This is a matter between you and me. Don't let irrelevant people get involved." The meaning of these words is to beat Yang Chao Ji. Laugh. Yang Kaoj sneered, "Why, do you still worry about this? People came to me specifically to beat me like this. Could it be that the people around me are making you afraid? Heh, whatever you want." The magnetic and hoarse voice sounded again, but this voice had a charming feeling that made people's throats dry. There were only a few words between the two, but it was like a confrontation between swords and swords. They seemed to be getting along very harmoniously, but in fact, it was very dangerous, even more fierce than a head-on fight. While Qin Binjiao was taking Suliang to visit and enjoy the grand capital, on the other side, Tan Qinjia's journey of experience was full of tragedy. Of course, with Tan Qinjia's strength, this way of finding opportunities is actually not difficult for her. The one who really makes her feel the pain is her aunt. Along the way, Tan Qinjia didn't know what her aunt was thinking. When she had nothing to do, she always wanted to exercise her, which made her suffer and miserable. "Auntie, it's already done, right?" Tan Qinjia was walking on the road, but there was a huge boulder on her back. On top of the boulder, there was a deck chair. Wan Qing was lying on the deck chair, leisurely and contented. She was holding a book in her hand and was reading fascinatedly. Hearing her niece's words, Wan Qing lowered her head and took a look, and said calmly, "Where are we now? It's still far from enough. Let's continue." One sentence almost made Tan Qinjia almost throw her aunt out. Tan Qinjia was such a cold and arrogant person, and at this moment, She felt like she wanted to curse. My aunt used the excuse of exercising herself to walk on the road carrying a big stone. Although the stone was not heavy, and although she had not met any pedestrians yet, who knew when she would meet them? I was seen as a girl carrying a stone. Gee, the picture is so beautiful, I really can't imagine it. Tan Kinja was very suspicious whether her aunt was deliberately trying to trick her. Volume 1 Hashtag Chapter 190 Auntie, you don't want to be hated by a Liang, right? After all, with her immortality level power, let alone such a stone, even if it weighs 100 times, she won't feel anything, and it won't be a problem for her to carry it for thousands of miles. The most important thing is that this is not the first time she has enjoyed this kind of exercise. God knows how she got here. Auntie, is this exercise method of yours useful? Tan Kinja couldn't help but said, I don't think this is an exercise for me at all. But I didn't expect it. Tan Kinja said matter-of-factly, of course it will be useful. Your cultivation is very good, and your understanding of the realm is impeccable. I can't teach you much, so naturally I won't help you hone your cultivation. Auntie, what I want to train is your Taoist heart. It's true that you don't look good when you look like this, and you will be embarrassed when you meet passers-by. But because of this, you have to face passers-by bravely and hone your Taoist heart. Okay, I'm your aunt, how could I harm you? After saying this, Tan Kinja was speechless. Yes, you are my aunt, how could you harm me? At most, just give me a prank. Auntie, your reason is too far-fetched. Do you think I will believe it? But after all, she is her aunt, and Tan Kinja cannot resist forcefully. The most important thing is that she cannot beat her. So, she had no choice but to continue walking forward with this posture. Occasionally, people passing by would cast strange looks. Tan Kinja lowered her head, pretending not to see her, but she was so shy in her heart that she was too embarrassed to see people. But gradually, Tan Kinja seemed to feel that she really didn't react so much to other people's gazes. She didn't know whether it was because of the psychological effect or because her aunt's method really worked. In the evening, the two found a roadside inn to stay. After dinner, after sleeping and resting, the two of them naturally wanted to take a shower after walking in the wild for a day. In the pool, Tan Kinja just soaked in the water, breathed a comfortable sigh, and wanted to rest on the edge of the pool. Immediately afterwards, a soft and delicate body suddenly approached her from behind. Then, a pair of delicate hands lifted off her bath towel and grasped her proud peak. Ah! Tan Kinja screamed, immediately recognizing the person behind her, and shouted angrily, Auntie, what are you doing? Of course I want to confirm my niece's growth. Wan Qing's voice came from behind her, well, it seems that having a man is indeed different. It seems that she has grown up really well. Aunt. Tan Kinja was speechless, and she was weak when speaking. She was the only aunt who could talk about taking advantage of her niece in such a fresh and refined way. Moreover, although the tingling feeling brought by her aunt's pair of jade hands was not as good as that of her own man, due to their identities, it was indeed a bit too exciting, making Tan Kinja feel so shy that she could not speak at all. Come. After a while. Only then did Wan Qing let go of Tan Kinja, and then she turned Tan Kinja's body over, threw the towel to her, and pointed to her proud peak, come on, help my aunt take a bath. My aunt is still very good to you. You can choose for yourself whether you want to use this towel as a cushion or just use that pair to act. Looking at where her aunt was pointing at her, and then at the towel in her hand, Tan Kinja, who had experience, immediately understood what her aunt meant, and said immediately, Aunt, don't go too far, I'm not Lily. I only love Liang. But all she got in return for her resistance was a threatening look from Wan Qing. The moment she saw this look, Tan Kinja felt a little scared. But thinking about what she had experienced in the past few days and what she might encounter in the future, Tan Kinja felt that she couldn't be cowardly. Tan Kinja, you have to be tough, you can't let a mere ant bully you like this. Resist, you must resist, even if it is to avoid suffering this humiliation in the future, you must resist. But then, Wan Qing's slightly threatening voice rang out, huh? Kinja, why don't you take action? Why, don't you want to serve my aunt? Alas! Tan Kinja's body immediately trembled, and she let out a cry like a small animal. Woohoo, I want to be tough, but in front of my aunt, it's useless. So, just act with humiliation. Since this time, Tan Kinja has obviously been silent for a lot, and she has been deep in thought all the time. She knew very well that she could not go on like this, otherwise, her aunt would probably go further and further. Of course, Tan Kinja also knew that her aunt would never hurt her, but she couldn't bear such bullying no matter what. Therefore, we must find a way to resist. According to the current situation, direct resistance is not feasible. I have to change my thinking and strategy. Since physically, I am no match for my aunt, I might as well just play with my aunt's thoughts. Just like how one's own rebels treat oneself. After another moment of contemplation, Tan Kinja showed a smile on her face, feeling confident. Auntie, I have already thought of a way to deal with you. Now, I know him better than you. Thinking in her mind, Tan Kinja was full of confidence and seemed sure that her method would work. Then, Tan Kinja immediately went to Wan Qing and said mysteriously, Auntie, my niece has noticed a long time ago that you have thoughts about Liang. So what? Wan Qing had no intention of hiding it. Hey. Tan Kinja smiled and immediately began to threaten her aunt with her man. I now have a better relationship with Liang than aunt, and I also know Liang better than aunt. Auntie, do you think Liang believes in you or me? Auntie, you definitely don't want to be disliked by Liang, right? After hearing this, Wan Qing immediately felt a bad feeling in her heart and asked, what on earth do you want to do? Tan Kinja looked like her conspiracy had succeeded and said, as a niece, I also hope that my aunt can be happy, so I can teach you how to conquer Liang. But the premise is, aunt, you have to be obedient. After being stunned for a moment, Wan Qing glanced at Tan Kinja meaningfully, nodded, and agreed, okay. So, after the two came to an agreement, Tan Kinja began to switch from defense to offense and became proactive. Wan Qing, on the other hand, began to restrain herself and never caused trouble to Tan Kinja again. For Wan Qing, it was certainly interesting to play with her niece and see her humiliated, shy, but helpless look. Volume 1 Chapter 191 Kinja fights back. Good sisters have to change their clothes together. But, more importantly, it's Sul Yang. Since Tan Kinja can help him conquer Sul Yang, it is acceptable for him to endure it and let his niece go for the time being. Everything is just for the sake of conquering his master in this life as soon as possible. From then on, Wan Qing began to be obedient, and she would do whatever Tan Kinja said. Auntie, my niece is hungry. I wonder if Auntie can find some food for her. Tan Kinja looked at her aunt with a smile and said. Wait, Aunt will come back as soon as she goes. Wan Qing stood up and set off decisively. After a while, she really came back with her prey. Auntie, we finally came across a small river. My niece wants to take a bath and clean it up, but she is afraid of someone passing by. Can you help your niece look out for the wind? Tan Kinja put one hand into the river, feeling the cool temperature of the river, and looked at Xiao Xiao with a smile. You can take a bath in peace. With my aunt here, not even a small insect will let it get close. Wan Qing said calmly, and then, as expected, she opened her senses and began to watch the wind. All in all, Tan Kinja was very proactive these days, calling her aunt around in various ways, but Wan Qing was obedient and didn't say a word to refute. Seeing her aunt busy here and there under her orders, Tan Qinja was proud of herself, with her hands on her hips, extremely satisfied. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womeng. Chapter 205. Although this is a treatment obtained at the expense of one's own men, it is not a big problem. Finally, my aunt fell into my hands. At the same time, Sheng Jingzhong. Ah, sneeze. Suliang suddenly sneezed and rubbed his nose subconsciously, feeling a little confused. Got a cold? That's not the case. I've never heard that immortal cultivators can suffer from such a minor illness. Qin Benjao on the side asked concernedly, Sulang, what's wrong? Suliang shook his head in confusion, I don't know, but I always feel like I'm being watched. It's weird. Hearing this, Qin Benjao held her chin and thought for a moment, then her eyes suddenly lit up, I know, Master must have sold you. Suliang shook his head and laughed, rubbing his girlfriend's head, how is that possible? What you said is too outrageous, isn't it? Shaking his head and throwing off Suliang's hand, Qin Benjao analyzed confidently, look, Sulang, Master and Sister Wan Qing set out together. Judging from Sister Wan Qing's character, she will definitely be dissatisfied with Master if you do this, Master will suffer miserably. Master can bear it for a day or two, but after a long time, Master will not bear it like this and will definitely resist. Sister Wan Qing's covetousness towards you, Sulang, has not been concealed at all. We all know it well, and since Master is no match for Sister Wan Qing, and the only one who can be used as a bargaining chip is you, under such circumstances, she will definitely I'll sell you out. Facing his girlfriend's analysis, Suliang shook his head, it's impossible. I firmly believe that my sister's character is very reliable. She will definitely not do such a thing. It won't happen. Not only that, Suliang violently hit his girlfriend on the head and taught him a lesson, she is your master, you should trust your master more, okay? No matter how bad it is, you can't do it with such malice, come and speculate about master. Cut. Qin Benjao made a sound and curled her lips, with a look of disgust on her face. What kind of master is this, who takes advantage of other people's husbands when they are not around? This kind of master just wants her to disappear. Lang Jun belongs to me alone. Humph, Sulang speaks for his master like this. Could it be that Sulang likes this model of his master? In that case, why not? Thinking in her mind, Qin Benjao's expression quickly became cold and arrogant, noble and majestic, her eyes were full of indifference, her head was slightly raised, looking like a cold and arrogant queen. Immediately afterwards, Qin Benjao turned over and pressed her man under her, sitting on her boyfriend, condescending, her voice full of coldness and arrogance, Mr. Sir, do you like the weak position? In this case, I am not an unreasonable person, so I will help you, so what? After saying that, Qin Benjao stretched out her slender hand and lifted Suliang's chin with her jade fingers, hey, Sulang, have you thought about how to please me? If you can satisfy me, I wouldn't mind giving you some rewards. Hiss. Suliang took a breath of air. Seeing that his family could look like this, he was filled with admiration. He couldn't hold back his breath and couldn't help but unsheath his giant sword. My girlfriend is really good at playing. To be honest, my girlfriend's rare and extremely queenly posture is indeed very sultry and makes people want to stop. At this moment, Suliang simply wanted to kneel down and sing Conquer. Conquered by you like this. Come on, please whip me as much as you want. This kind of boudoir fun is great to play with once in a while. In the early morning of the next day, the morning light was slightly bright. Suliang opened his eyes and subconsciously looked to the side of the door. He saw that majestic and luxurious figure at a glance. It was Yang Kaoj who came to visit again. Looking at his girlfriend who was lying on top of him, sleeping happily, and then looking at himself and Yang Kaoj without saying a word, Suliang always felt that the scene and this bystander were so familiar. Isn't this a repeat of the last scene? Even Yang Kaoj's position has not changed at all. Why did she come to visit so early in the morning? Rubbing his brows, Suliang felt a headache. The eldest princess came to visit and no one informed her. Didn't she even knock on the door? Moreover, for some reason, Suliang vaguely noticed that when he looked at the calm-looking Yang Kaoj, the cousin of his girlfriend was looking at him and his girlfriend with great interest. After blinking, Suliang remembered everything his girlfriend had done, and looked a little weird. Does this eldest princess have the same bad habits as her girlfriend? It should be said that they deserve to be a family. Waking up Qin Benjao again, the three of them sat together. Tan Kinja pretended to be serious, looking luxurious and elegant. I am here to invite you two to attend the palace dinner tonight. This dinner is of great significance. It is not only a blessing for Benjao, but also a thank you to the two of you for defending the city at the border and relieving the siege. So, you two must not miss tonight. However, after hearing this, Qin Benjao pursed her lips and said somewhat reluctantly, I don't want to go. Socializing is very troublesome. If we have this time, we might as well rest in the room with Sulang. Hearing this, Suliang and Yang Kaoj turned their heads to look at Qin Benjao. Qin Benjao was seen lying on the table, looking casual. She seemed to have no interest in anything other than hanging out with her man. The cool fairy who used to practice diligently has now become a complete waste. Seeing that he could not convince his sister, Yang Kaoj could only look at Suliang for help. However, Suliang asked with some curiosity, what is the purpose of this dinner party? As he spoke, Suliang's eyes were blazing, as if he had seen through some kind of truth. Pursing her red lips and thinking for a moment, Yang Kaoj confessed, stabilize the morale of the army and stabilize the policy. Suliang nodded without any surprise, I understand. I have already prepared the formal attire. Yang Kaoj took Suliang and Qin Benjao outside a room, opened the door, and led the two of them in. Pointing at the dresses hanging everywhere in the room, he said calmly, I'm inviting you. I have already prepared these for you. The quantity is not too much, it just barely fills this room. Look, Benjao, are there any that you are satisfied with? Looking at the dresses hanging everywhere in the room, Suliang felt as if he had walked into a dress store. They were numerous in number and complete in variety. The most important thing was that they all looked very luxurious. At first glance, they seemed to be worthless. Fey. There are so many luxurious dresses, but it's not too much. Gee, my girlfriend's cousin is really inhumane. Wandering through a room full of dresses, Qin Benjao picked out what she wanted without spending much time and energy, took it out, and put it on herself to mark. Sulang, look, do I look good in this? Qin Benjao looked at her boyfriend and asked happily. Suliang turned around and looked over, only to see a black and white evening dress in the hands of his girlfriend. The style of the dress was simple. The two extreme combinations were mixed together. It was simple and elegant, and made Qin Benjao's innocence more complicated. A bit cold and arrogant. Thumbs up, Suliang said, as expected of Benjao, her taste is as good as ever. This gift is a perfect match for you. Only my wife can wear the temperament of this dress. Hey hey. Hearing her boyfriend's compliment, Qin Benjao smiled happily and finally chose a dress. But then, Qin Benjao stared at Yang Kaoj, with an inexplicable smile on her beautiful face, and said, there are so many dresses, I can't change them by myself. Don't you think so, Sister Yang? Hearing this, Yang Kaoj blinked and immediately understood what his sister meant, and immediately turned around and wanted to run away. Ahem, I still have things to deal with, so. But now it's too late to run away. Before Ying Keoj could finish speaking, Qin Binjao grabbed Ying Keoj's arm and led her into the room of dresses. Okay, Sister Ying, even if something happens, I'm not in a hurry. Come and choose one too. That's, okay. Seeing his sister's expectant and excited expression, Ying Keoj's heart softened. In the end, he had no choice but to agree and follow Qin Binjao to choose among the rooms. It has to be said that Qin Binjao had a good vision to begin with. Later, after being inspired by Suliang's teachings on clothing design and charm improvement, her current vision can be described as very vicious. Looking at her beautiful, tall, elegant, and majestic sister, Qin Binjao fell into thinking. Sister Ying's tall figure goes well with many evening dresses, and I want to find the one that suits Sister Ying best among these dresses. Continuously looking at Ying Keoj, Qin Binjao looked at Ying Keoj's fiery red hair tied up with a phoenix crown and the black silk wrapped around her slender legs. After a moment, her eyes suddenly lit up. Got it? Immediately, he reached out and took out a fiery red evening dress from among the many dresses, and handed it to the singer Ying Chao. Sister Ying, this fiery red dress matches your hair color perfectly. It not only shows off your figure perfectly, but also, it can bring out your elegance and nobility, and when paired with the black silk on your legs, it will add a sense of mystery and accentuate your slender figure. This outfit perfectly suits your temperament. Come on, go put it on and take a look. After saying that, he took Ying Keoj and went to the bedroom. In the bedroom, Suliang sat on a chair and looked at Qin Binjao and Ying Keoj, who had already changed into formal clothes, performing tricks in front of him. Qin Binjao has a slender figure, her legs are wrapped in white silk, and her silver hair is shawl. She pretends to be cold and arrogant, but she always makes people feel a little cute when she looks at her. She is wrapped in a black and white dress. The dress fits her figure perfectly, showing off Qin Binjao's slender figure. The black and white color scheme, while being pure and holy, also gives Qin Binjao a sense of coldness and arrogance. I have to say that this combination makes the cute fairy look like a fairy relegated to the mortal world, which is beyond words. As for Ying Keoj, she has long red hair tied up and a similarly slender figure. She wears a slim-fitting fiery red dress with black stockings on her legs. With her almost perfect manners and her elegant and luxurious feeling, she almost overflows with elegance and luxury. She is really the elegant princess herself. Seeing the two women's postures at this time, Suliang couldn't help but applaud and praise, "Holy fairy and elegant princess, if you two appear at the dinner party, I am afraid that no one in the world will dare to compete with you." After saying these words, Qin Binjao was so happy that she almost threw herself into her man's arms. Ying Keoj was a little shy and quite uncomfortable. As the eldest princess of Daxia, she has never worn this kind of dress. It looks good, and she likes it, but I just felt a little shy and uncomfortable. Looking at Qin Binjao, who was playing coquettishly with her man in her arms, and Suliang, who was patting his girlfriend's head dotingly, Ying Keoj pursed his lips and said nothing. After getting along with each other for a few days, she could clearly feel that the atmosphere between the two of them was too harmonious and easygoing. Even the two of them treat themselves in the same way, and they don't seem to regard themselves as princesses at all. But it's very different from Ying Keoj's own life experience. On weekdays, she walked on thin ice everywhere in the palace and had to treat everything with caution. How had she ever been so relaxed? However, is this kind of life really something that I can have? For a moment, looking at Qin Binjao and Suliang, Ying Keoj felt a little timid. But besides being timid, she also felt a little envious. In the evening, the dinner began. Suliang and Qin Binjao set off and soon arrived outside the palace. But before they could enter, they saw the forbidden army outside the door stopping the passing guests and reviewing the invitations. It can be said that they were very dedicated to their duties. Seeing this, Suliang looked at Qin Binjao doubtfully, Benjeo, invitation letter, do we have it? Chin Benjeo shook her head matter-of-factly, no way. Volume 1 Hashtag Chapter 192 I'm about to lose my virginity, and you're just watching. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womeng. Chapter 206. But then, before Suliang could ask, Chin Benjeo continued, don't worry, Sulang, it's not a big problem. Say it. Then he put on a cold and arrogant face and walked forward with his husband. Fairy Leng Aada.jpg normal version for outsiders. When Suliang and Chin Benjeo walked in front of the Imperial Guards, the Imperial Guards did not stop them and all saluted respectfully, see you, princess. Well, get up, you did a good job. Chin Benjeo looked cold and arrogant, nodded slightly, and walked into the palace with her boyfriend. Chapter 275 Everyone loves Chin Benjeo. Walking on the way into the palace, along the way, various dignitaries went together, all of them were quiet, talking in low voices at most. But when they saw Chin Benjeo, they all greeted her enthusiastically. Greetings to the princess. She didn't even say hello when she came back. I might as well go out of the city to greet her. Last time the princess came back quietly, and it's still the same this time. It makes me regret waiting. I heard that the princess resisted evil spirits at the border and killed thousands of evil spirits with one sword. This kind of cultivation strength is really admirable and admirable. We haven't seen each other for a year, and the princess has become even more stunning. She was known as a fairy before, but after entering the fairy gate, she became a real fairy. Her appearance has become more and more exaggerated. I wonder if there is anything else in Princess Xianmen that needs help? If so, Princess, you don't have to be polite. We will definitely do our best to make a good relationship with Xianmen. Of course, it would be better if the dog could be allowed in. People who came and went kept greeting each other warmly. Even though Chin Benjeo kept looking cold and arrogant and responded mediocrely, they still enjoyed it. Looking at this scene, Suliang thought about it for a while and had some ideas in his mind. It seems that although my girlfriend only comes back once a year, she is still very popular and loved. This level of popularity is simply outrageous, isn't it? Look at these people, each of them is simply more fanatical than the disciples of Tiandao sect. And listening to their words, the reason why such a scene occurs is one of the reasons why his girlfriend has a stunning face, perfect figure and cold and arrogant temperament, and the other is because of people's admiration for the immortal cultivation sect. After all, Chin Benjeo was originally known as a fairy, but in fact it was mostly people's compliments on her appearance and bearing. But when a fairy enters the fairy gate, he is a real fairy. Look at these people, they are scrambling one by one, even if they spend all their wealth, just to have a good relationship with Tiandao sect, but even so, they often fail to get what they want, but these people still enjoy it. The name of Tiandaozong is a bit too attractive, right? To be honest, Suliang had always thought that Tiandao sect was just a mediocre small section. Even if it is now the head of 100 sects, it cannot compare to large sects such as Fukang Dao sect. But now it seems that Suliang really thought wrong. For the world of cultivating immortals, Tiandao sect is the leader of hundreds of sects and has a strong foundation of strength, but it is still not as good as a sect like Fukang Dao sect. But for these ordinary people, the name of Tiandao sect means immortal fate and power without worldly constraints. With some sigh in his heart, Suliang admitted that this was the first time that he felt the value and status of Tiandao sect. This is far beyond my imagination. Looking at Lang Jun's slightly weird expression, Chin Benjeo thought wrongly. Could it be that Lang Jun's expression was because he saw that he was too popular, So he felt a sense of crisis. Lang Jun, isn't this unnecessary? There is only Lang Jun in my heart, and he will never repent in all his life. Then Qin Benjao quickly comforted her, Sulang, don't think too much. In Yao's heart, no matter what happens, you are the only one. Yao's thoughts will last through life, even at the end of time. Hearing this, Suliang blinked and immediately understood that his girlfriend was thinking too much, so he quickly defended, Benjao, you misunderstood. I just feel a little emotional about the status of our Tiandao section. However, Qin Benjao didn't listen to Suliang's explanation at all. Instead, she hugged her boyfriend and put her little head on Suliang's body affectionately to swear that the famous woman had her rightful owner. Feeling the soft and delicate body in his arms were deeply embedded in his girlfriend's not too proud peak. He was very touched by his girlfriend's actions and thoughts. But looking at the knife-like eyes of the people around him, Suliang blinked. I was forced to torture the dog silently again. Forget it, I just accepted my girlfriend's wishes. Along the way, Suliang and Qin Benjao soon arrived at the place where the dinner was held. It is the Hall of Supreme Harmony in the Imperial Palace. But just when the two of them entered the Hall of Supreme Harmony, a gentleman came to the two of them and started chatting. Sister Benjao has become more and more charming after not seeing her for a long time. Then, he looked at Suliang and said, this gentleman is quite talented, handsome. He seems to have a close relationship with Sister Benjao. I am the second prince of Daxia. I have met you, sir. Suliang said with a smile, but there was some confusion in his heart. He and his girlfriend had just entered here, and the second prince came to show his kindness. Immediately afterwards, the second prince spoke softly like the big brother next door, with a gentle smile on his face, without the slightest hint of arrogance. This Hall of Supreme Harmony often holds banquets, and the scenery is quite beautiful. Among them, there are some rare flowers and trees, palaces and pavilions, but the scenery is difficult to see from the outside, but it is quite rare and impressive. Sister Benjao, Mr. Suliang, how about we get together here some other day? Seeing that Qin Benjao still kept a cold and arrogant face and said nothing, Suliang responded with a smile, it's easy to talk, and of course there is nothing I can't refuse when His Highness invites you. After some polite greetings, after the second prince left, Suliang immediately whispered to his girlfriend, Benjao, stay away from him. On the surface, this person is harmless, but secretly, he must have some evil intentions. However, Qin Benjao blinked, but said, why do you judge people by their appearance? Suliang shook his head repeatedly, no, this is just a popular law of plot development. However, Qin Benjao didn't believe Suliang's explanation. Looking at her husband with some suspicion, Qin Benjao suddenly realized after a moment and said happily, I know, Suliang, you are jealous. Immediately, because of this, he laughed happily. Seeing this, Suliang was speechless. This silly girl of mine is so stupid. Fortunately, she went to Tiandao sect since she was a child and did not participate in the intrigues in the palace. Otherwise, wouldn't all the bones that have been tricked by others be lost? Another moment passed, and soon, the Hall of Supreme Harmony was full of guests, almost all of whom had arrived. But this time, however, there were many wealthy ladies who came into contact with Suliang intentionally or unintentionally, and plotted to rob the man without returning his kindness. Some of these people simply want to recommend themselves to the pillow mat. After all, Suliang is indeed handsome, a member of the immortal sect, and has a close relationship with Qin Benjao. No matter how you look at it, they are all high-quality stocks. This kind of person must have a good relationship. And some of them really intend to drive a wedge between Suliang and Qin Benjao. Qin Benjao is a stunning beauty in the world, and she is also a fairy, so naturally there are people who have other ideas. Furthermore, Qin Benjao is the princess and has royal bloodline, so it is even more worth considering. So, for Suliang, use your beauty to seduce him, and let you create a gap in your hearts first. Then, someone was sent here to lure Qin Benjao away. The princess has finally come back. We sisters miss her so much. How about the princess follow me and talk to the sisters? Qin Benjao blinked and nodded, okay. So, I followed. Seeing this, all the ladies and gentlemen smiled. The plan is perfect, the first step has been completed, it's time for us to take action. Master Su, why are you sitting here alone? Are you having trouble with the princess? A beautiful lady from the Shengjing family, the Wang family, walked to Suliang's side with small steps. She put her soft and boneless hands on Suliang's shoulders, and her whole body was almost pressed against Suliang's body, covering her face. He smiled softly and said, "Oh, master, please don't be sad. Mr. Su is a talented person and a member of the immortal section. This little girl is very willing to accompany Mr. Su. Oh, I won't bother Miss Wang about this matter. Speaking of which, my father and Mr. Su have a relationship. It is only natural that I should accompany Mr. Su." Another beautiful girl looked elegant. She walked up to Suliang and stretched out her hand to hold Suliang's arm. She didn't care at all that her pair of proud peaks were touched by Suliang's arm, but intentionally or unintentionally. To make it touch more thoroughly. Not only that, one of the beautiful girl's hands was walking down Suliang's shoulder without leaving any trace, and her slender fingers occasionally lightly scratched her, with the obvious intention of teasing. What the beautiful girl said was indeed true. Her father was the Taifu who was galloping on horseback. Even though the Taifu was punished by the Ministry of Criminal Justice, he was not demoted and imprisoned. Naturally, he was qualified to bring his daughter to the banquet. But at this time, another beautiful girl from the royal family slowly walked forward and sat directly next to Suliang. She held 2 white jade wine glasses in her hands and handed one glass to Suliang. I heard that the princess brought back a genius from the immortal sect, who is not only highly cultivated, but also handsome and handsome. The little girl has long admired Master Su. I hope that Mr. Su can accompany the little girl to drink this drink. Say it. Then she placed the white jade wine glass in front of Suliang, and she stretched out her hand, intentionally or unintentionally, brushing it from the back of Suliang's hand, and looked into Suliang's eyes, which were filled with spring water and rippling water. Snort. The young lady from the Taifu family snorted, a little dissatisfied, and whispered, "Does the daughter of a mere servant dare to come here to join in the fun?" These 3 beautiful ladies, each with their own beauty, are just the beginning. Since the 3 of them, countless famous ladies have come to Suliang for various reasons. Intentionally or unintentionally, they have fallen in love with Suliang. Rubbing around. Then, surrounded by a group of famous ladies, Suliang was simply oppressed and teased. This kind of thing that made others dream about happened to Suliang, but it made Suliang feel unbearable. And when these famous ladies were teasing Suliang, from time to time, someone would look in Qin Benjao's direction. Their eyes were not provocative, but they were uneasy and well-intentioned. "Oh, I miss you, the majestic fairy princess, but you can only be entangled in mundane things, looking at your man, being teased by us, let's see if you can stand it." However, they didn't expect it. Qin Benjao, who was deceived with excuses, looked at the scene happening around Suliang, but she was indifferent. She didn't mean to be angry or jealous at all. Not only that, in the eyes of these famous ladies, the princess even looked at it with great interest. This time, everyone was dumbfounded. Not only were they shocked that their plan failed so hastily, but they were also shocked by Qin Benjao's attitude. "Your man is being teased by us and may betray you at any time, okay? How can you still watch with great interest? What's wrong with this?" But they didn't know that Qin Benjao, watching their performance at this moment, was not only unmoved, but also a little disdainful. "Humph, you think I don't know what you want to do? With your low-level techniques, they are no better than master." Not only did I not feel worried at all, but I actually wanted to laugh a little bit. How could Sulang be fooled? At this moment, Sulyang, who Qin Binjao thought was unlikely to be fooled, was in a very bad situation. Of course he won't be fooled, but these brown candies are quite clingy. Not only can they not be driven away at any cost, but they are also trying to get close to themselves. Who can bear this? My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womeng. Chapter 207. It's okay to just take advantage of yourself, these brownies are still taking advantage of themselves. To be honest, if Sulyang hadn't carefully guarded his vital points, he would have been measured by these brown candies long ago. But Sulyang is only one person after all. At most, he can only protect his vital points. Others are being taken advantage of. There is really nothing he can do. Gradually, Sulyang almost wanted to hit someone. But he was surrounded by a group of women. It would be unbecoming of a gentleman to hit someone. He couldn't do it, he couldn't do it. So, Sulyang quickly looked at his girlfriend for help, wanting to ask her to think of a solution. But unfortunately, this real girlfriend of mine is completely indifferent and refuses to pay even a second glance to her. This is how to do. And at this critical moment, the princess is here. A high-pitched voice sounded, and he put on the dress that his sister had prepared for him. Yang Kaoj took perfect steps and made a grand entrance. The red gift just matched Yang Kaoj's hair color. Her slim figure perfectly highlighted her exquisite figure. Paired with the pair of black silk stockings on her legs, she instantly gave off an elegant, luxurious, yet cold and arrogant temperament. From Ying Ying it stood out on Chao Ji. Volume 1 Chapter 193 The Queen Mother meets the Empress, the new binding partner, she is really no longer a human being. And Ying Kaoj's cold and arrogant temperament instantly filled the whole place, suppressing all the ladies, so that they didn't even dare to move. Indifferent and emotionless eyes came over, and all the ladies turned pale. They subconsciously took a few steps back and got away from Sulyang. This time, Sulyang was relieved. Call. Sulyang took a deep breath and hurriedly walked to his girlfriend. But I didn't expect it. Qin Binjao joked, Sulyang, weren't you very happy to be surrounded by those famous ladies and their daughters just now? I'm glad you're big. Sulyang hit his girlfriend on the head with no mercy, then grabbed his girlfriend, held her in his arms and ravaged her. What, does it feel good to see your man being taken advantage of by others? You can't even take a look at it? Don't you want to? Qin Binjao's limbs were struggling wildly, and she looked like she was crying. She looked extremely miserable, but she didn't dare to resist. All the coldness and arrogance were gone. Watching this scene, Yang Kaoj couldn't help laughing and almost laughed out loud. Yang Kaoj arrived and the banquet officially began. Just when everyone was seated, Yang Kaoj stood up, holding a wine glass in his hand. Here, I would like to thank Binjao and Sulyang. You may not know, but just a few days ago, something happened at Tianmen Pass on our border in Daxia. Evil spirits appeared and attacked the border, almost destroying Tianmen Pass. Fortunately, Binjao and Sulyang arrived in time. Each with one sword, they destroyed thousands of evil spirits. This solved my dilemma at Tianmen Pass. Hiss. Hearing this, everyone took a breath of air, and their eyes changed when they looked at Qin Binjao and Sulyang. Of course they know what happened at Tianmen Pass, and they also know how difficult it is to deal with the evil spirits. Frankly speaking, it would take several elite soldiers to stop and kill even one such existence. And if the number exceeds 1,000, even those capable border officers will have a hard time stopping them. But Suliang and Qin Binjao killed thousands of evil spirits with just one sword? Isn't this strength too terrifying? Suddenly, Suliang and Qin Binjao became the center of attention. Seeing that everyone's attention was attracted to Suliang and Qin Binjao, Yang Kaoj coughed twice and started to give a speech. Everyone, if Binjao and Suliang weren't there at Tianmen Pass that day, I'm afraid there would be, it really can't be defended anymore, and at that time, the evil spirits will definitely enter my Daxia in large numbers. By that time, it will already be visible that the people will not be able to make a living and the lives of the people will be in ruins. Perhaps, even our Shengjing will be destroyed by the evil devil. But this time Binjao and Suliang were here, so we got through the difficulty, but what about next time? What about next time? The evil spirit will definitely come again, but Binjao and Suliang will not be there every time. We can't expect to let others help us every time, just to survive. This is a way to die. Now that a disaster is imminent, how can we, Daxia, remain in peace while fighting among ourselves? Only by uniting as one, putting aside past grudges, and sincerely cooperating can we have hope of protecting our country, our wealth, and our lives. After saying these words, the hearts of everyone present were filled with excitement and they felt deeply touched. They nodded in agreement and all looked at Yang Kaoj with admiration and admiration. Even some people who had been enemies for a long time looked at each other and actually saw the idea of resolving their hatred in each other's eyes. See this. Suliang clicked his tongue a little, feeling very emotional. She is worthy of being the eldest princess in the palace. She uses such methods to win people's hearts very skillfully and without leaving any trace. She is much better than the little fool fairy who is also a member of the royal family and has been in the mountains since she was a child. Seeing the crowd's response, Yang Kaoj was very satisfied. Yes, a speech made the situation better, and all the preparations I had made were not in vain. But right now, a high-pitched voice sounded in the Hall of Supreme Harmony, the Queen Mother has arrived. Immediately afterwards, the Queen Mother walked slowly from outside the palace, and with the clicking footsteps, the powerful aura of Mother Yi Tianxia quickly turned into an indescribable sense of oppression, causing everyone to unconsciously close their mouths and look at the Queen Mother. But all I saw was, the Queen Mother has a stunning face, but her brows and eyes are all naturally enchanting. Even though she is graceful and elegant at the moment, and her face is expressionless, it still makes people feel as if she has a soft smile at the corner of her mouth. Wearing a luxurious court dress that was entirely purple, she wore a purple tube-top dress that wrapped her voluptuous and exquisite figure, with lace decorations embroidered on the top of the sleeves. Looking down the long skirt is slim. The Queen Mother's buttocks are tightly wrapped, highlighting the round and straight outline. The legs are wrapped by the long skirt, reaching to the ground. You can vaguely see her feet wearing a pair of skirts. Purple high-heel boots. Just walking towards everyone can feel the majestic pressure of the high position from the Queen Mother, which makes people suffocate, but even so, they still can't hide her enchanting feeling. Queen Mother? What a charming and beautiful woman. Under the angry gaze of everyone, the Queen Mother stopped in the middle of the crowd and looked at Yang Kaoj who was standing there. Vaguely, there was a smell of gunpowder between the two of them, as if it could be detonated at any time. At the same time, two different types of cold arrogance and luxurious aura spread from the two of them, colliding together, tit for tat, without giving in, making those who saw the scene almost hold their breath and dare not take a breath. Suddenly, the Queen Mother spoke. Her magnetic voice, with a bit of hoarseness, was evocative. The AI family has heard about what the eldest princess said about Tianmen Pass. However, the eldest princess claimed that talking is to ward off evil spirits, but they never thought about it. Can you give me an explanation regarding Tianmen Pass? Tianmen Pass is almost broken. Your eldest princess protects the border gate. If it weren't for Binjao and Mr. Su's help, how could the border gate be safe? The eldest princess keeps saying that she can't rely on the power of others, but this time, if it weren't for the power of others, the border would not be safe, and I, Daxia, would be in danger. Is this considered a dereliction of duty by the eldest princess? After saying these words, even the most stupid person can see the purpose of the Queen Mother. This time she came here precisely to question Ying Chao Ji. And Suliang could hear that the Queen Mother's speech was very interesting. She scolded Ying Kaoj for being unfavorable in protecting her, and also said that he and his girlfriend had made great contributions. They stepped on each other and praised her. This was a typical tactic of alienation. Not to mention the majestic princess, even if others are reprimanded in this way, they will be more or less dissatisfied with the person being praised. High, really high. Faced with the Queen Mother's accusation and alienation, Ying Kaoj did not hesitate at all. He actually retreated and began to take the initiative to admit his mistakes. It is true. The Queen Mother was right in reprimanding. This matter is indeed Kaoj's dereliction of duty. Kaoj has already gone to the Ministry of Punishment and received punishment, which can be regarded as a token of appreciation and can make up for some of Kaoj's mistakes. Immediately afterwards, Ying Kaoj raised his chest slightly and his voice was much higher. Please rest assured, Queen Mother, in order to deal with this kind of thing and prevent the Tiananmen Pass incident from happening again, Kaoj is already preparing to train a new army for an expedition to kill the devil only wants to protect the safety of the people at the border. Hearing this, Suliang and the Queen Mother raised their brows. Ying Kaoj's words sounded righteous, but in fact, he wanted to take this opportunity to integrate military power and firmly hold it in his own hands. However, the reasons used by Ying Kaoj were very formal and upright. No one could refute it, and no one dared to refute it. Not even the Queen Mother can. After thinking about it and understanding the key, the Queen Mother remained calm on the surface, but she was a little surprised in her heart. She found that Ying Kaoj was really becoming more and more difficult to deal with. The various methods she used in the court were absolutely incomparable. She was able to do it at her fingertips and her level was frightening. She was not able to compare with her a year ago. In just 1 year, Ying Kaoj has grown extremely quickly. Even if she wanted to deal with it, she was unable to do so for a while. And just when Suliang was enjoying watching this drama of overt and covert fighting, Qin Binjao beside him felt a little worried. Approaching Suliang, Qin Binjao whispered, "Suliang, you always seem to have a special fetish for older people, right?" That. Before Qin Binjao finished speaking, Suliang denied it and said, "How is that possible? You are thinking too much." After that, he turned to look at his girlfriend again, took action decisively, grabbed his girlfriend's face, pulled her from side to side, and taught him a lesson, while saying, "Why, in your heart, is this the image of your man?" After Suliang finished teaching him a lesson, Qin Binjao pursed her lips and muttered innocently, "That's what it is." Immediately. He even started to count on his fingers, "I am still young, just in my youth, not counting, but master, I am not young at all. Sister Wonking, she looks very charming and mature. But since she is master's aunt, she is definitely much older than master. So, except for me, the people around Suliang are not too young." At the same time, Aju, Tan Kinja and Wan Qing sneezed at the same time, looking at each other with subtle expressions. "This is nothing." Listening to his girlfriend's words, Suliang couldn't laugh or cry, so Wan Qing let it go. Although she took the initiative, it was only an expedient measure to make the master less proactive. This is completely different from a rebellious disciple who has a bad sense of filial piety. And Tan Kinja. For Suliang, the reason why she is Tan Kinja is just because she is Tan Kinja, and it has nothing to do with age or anything else. "My girlfriend's idea is really outrageous, she must understand the truth." But just as Suliang was about to refute, the system's voice appeared in his ears, New binding object detected, Queen Mother of Daxia, Qin Wanyu. Will the host bind immediately? What the hell? Why is the Queen Mother also the target of binding? Suliang Gren was dumbfounded by this unexpected binding object. System, you are not a human being, how come even the Queen Mother has become a binding target? Although we are a Cao Thief simulator, there are limits to Cao Thief, right? What the hell is going on with you, the Queen Mother of Cao Thief? For a moment, Suliang was stunned. He simply didn't know what kind of expression or words to use to face the system's reminder. But at this time, Qin Benjao, who was beside Suliang, noticed something strange about Suliang and suddenly became nervous. Could it be that what he just said really touched Suliang's mind? Is it possible that Suliang really cares about the Queen Mother? No, no, absolutely not. My master and Wanqing's sister Qin Benjao are not unacceptable, but the Queen Mother really can't do it. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womeng. Chapter 208. His eyes were roving back and forth between the Queen Mother and Qin Benjao, and soon, Qin Benjao secretly made up her mind. Since there must be one, then, compared to the scary Queen Mother who is older and more dangerous, it would be more appropriate for Suliang to choose his cousin. After all, they are both my cousins. Wouldn't it be better to kiss her? And right now? Ying Kaoch, who was still confronting the Queen Mother, suddenly felt a chill emerge. She blinked in confusion and subconsciously looked around, but she didn't find any danger. Could it be that the Queen Mother is doing something against herself again / I never thought that I had been targeted by my cousin, who wanted me and her to change from one kind of sister to another. After ending the overt and covert fight with Ying Kaoch, the Queen Mother came directly to Suliang and Qin Benjao, held Qin Benjao's shoulders with both hands, looked at them for a moment, and then suddenly hugged Qin Benjao and gently patted Qin Benjao's back. Unexpectedly, Benjao Yao, you are so powerful now, it must be very hard to practice with Master in the mountains these years, right? Now that you are back home, you can rest at home and no one can disturb you. While speaking, the Queen Mother's soft voice, intimate attitude, and even her eyebrows were filled with the feeling of looking at the younger generation. She treated Qin Benjao with utmost consideration, just like her mother's gentleness and tolerance. Immediately afterwards, the Queen Mother let go of Qin Benjao, with a smile in her eyes, looked her up and down, and began to play the emotional card. When you were a child, you were still so small when you were with the AI family. I didn't expect that after so many years, it has passed, and it turned out to be so beautiful. Time really flies by. Igia still remembers that when you were a child, you always followed Igia, raising your little hand to ask for dessert. Igia would take you to the imperial dining room every time and sneak some for you. Now think about it, it seems like yesterday. Listening to the Queen Mother's words, Qin Benjao smiled, and a hint of reminiscence appeared on her beautiful cheeks. And this time, the Queen Mother looked at the Queen Mother again, with a smile on her face, looked at it, and nodded slightly. Yes, it is indeed as rumored. You are rich and handsome, with bright eyebrows and sharp eyes. I just saw you surrounded by so many people, and I couldn't help but feel happy. Luan is enough to show that you are sincere towards Benjao, and you are indeed a good young man. From now on, you must treat Benjao well. Although Benjao is not a direct descendant of the AI family, she has been with the AI family since she was a child. She is no different from the daughter of the AI family. Suliang immediately saluted and said, "Please rest assured, Queen Mother." The Queen Mother nodded, seemingly satisfied with Suliang's statement, and then pulled Suliang and Qin Benjao to chat about home affairs. At this time, she seemed to be an elegant and intellectual good elder. She only had infinite care and love for the younger generation, and there was no clue at all. Time flew by and the dinner ended quickly. All the dignitaries present, even the Queen Mother, had already left. But Yang Kaoj left Suliang and Qin Benjao behind. After everyone left, he told them, Benjao, Suliang, you'd better stay away from the Queen Mother. That woman is unfathomable and cannibalistic. It would be too dangerous not to spit out the bones, and even I can't figure out her thoughts. Alas! Qin Benjao immediately let out a mournful cry like a small animal, and kept digging into her man's arms. She didn't relax until she found the most comfortable and familiar position. But she asked doubtfully, but the Queen Mother seemed very gentle in the past few years. She even gave people sweets to eat. Isn't it okay? Hearing this, Yang Kaoj sighed with his forehead in his hands, feeling quite a headache. My younger sister, the lion, is too naive. There is no chance of counting on her. Then, Yang Kaoj had no choice but to look at Suliang and make eye contact with Suliang. After bidding farewell to Yang Kaoj and returning to his place of residence, before Suliang could relax, the system's voice suddenly sounded, it has been detected that the host has doubts. The system can once again provide simulation services to the host to help relieve the host's worries. After hearing this, Suliang did not agree immediately, but was a little suspicious. Yudao is to be courteous for nothing, and is either a traitor or a thief. This time the system is so proactive, there is probably a precondition, right? Really? When Suliang thought of this, the system's voice sounded again, simulating service requirements, find a fairy girlfriend and play some loving games. A love game? What is this stuff? Options: wooden horse, candle, rope. The system can provide props to the host. When the system voice fell, Suliang fell into deep thought for a long time. The dog system knows that if you are so proactive, it will definitely be up to no good. What a little game with love, where is the love here? Get down to business, system. I don't want to do it, I absolutely don't want to do it, my girlfriend is too late to love and care for her, how can I do this? But then, the system remind the host that the current situation is turbulent, and it is recommended that the host must simulate it. Okay, I listen to you, can't I just play? Suliang was a little helpless, but he had no choice but to follow the system's advice. But when it comes to having fun, you still have to choose a method. My girlfriend is so pure and cute. Trojan horses and candles are just too exciting. My girlfriend definitely can't stand it. That means the rope can still be used. Then, after some selection, Suliang had to choose the one that was most acceptable to his girlfriend. Tie the rope. Let's go play games with my girlfriend. Then, after a moment, Qin Benjao stared at the rope in her boyfriend's hand with wide eyes and a cute look on her face. She asked cutely, Mr. Lang, what is this rope for? Is it catching something? Volume 1 Chapter 194, Binding the Fairy in exchange for a simulation opportunity, farewell to the beautiful Queen Mother. Catch something? That's not impossible to say. Suliang touched his chin and thought carefully, then an inexplicable smile appeared on his lips. Benjao, be good, don't move, let my brother tie you up. Meow meow meow. Qin Benjao tilted her head and watched in confusion as her man approached little by little with the rope. Immediately afterwards. Oh, Suliang, it can't work there. Don't make trouble, it will be fine soon. It's so strong. It's so exciting. Please be gentle. No, if you lighten it up, it won't have this effect. Why are you still going through there? Suliang, let go, I won't play anymore. Good boy, Benjao, we're all here. Just hold on a little longer and it will be over. Then, a moment later, under a beautiful tortoise shell, Suliang unlocked the rope-bound fairy.jpg limited edition CG unlock screen. Is this okay? Suliang clapped his hands and nodded, even satisfied with his craftsmanship. But at this time, the system's voice sounded again, and it started to push even further. Remind the host, you are tied up like this and you don't do anything. This is not in line with the true spirit of CAO. After hearing this, Suliang subconsciously looked at his girlfriend. Looking at his girlfriend's appearance at this time, the ropes were shuttled around her body, forming a beautiful pattern like a tortoise shell. Although her hands and feet were not bound, Qin Binjao could only lie there. If she moved a little, she would feel extremely stimulated. Under the restraints of the rope, Qin Binjao's proud and growing peak, flat belly, and even the deep valley were all displayed without reservation. The more she struggled, the tighter the rope became at her vital points. I have to say that Suliang was really cautious at this moment. As expected of the system, this method, well, it's so delicious. After a long time, when Suliang got up from the bed, the system's voice finally sounded, "Congratulations to the host, for completing anything, playing some loving games with the fairy girlfriend. The simulation service is enabled. The host can deduce the direction of the next 3 days. Do you want to enable it? Turn on." Suliang said immediately, he finally got a chance to deduce it. Simulation begins. You were summoned by the Queen Mother, but you chose to refuse. That night, you were attacked. The opponent's strength was far beyond your imagination. You were seriously injured. As a result, you were unable to intervene in the subsequent royal chaos. At this point, the system sound disappears. This is gone? Suliang was a little confused. Just as he rejected the Queen Mother, someone attacked him, but he was not his opponent yet. Isn't this a little too anxious? After a moment of silence, Suliang said, "Can I simulate it again?" As soon as he finished speaking, the system's voice sounded, "Simulation begins. You were summoned by the Queen Mother, and you accepted the summons. You encountered the charm of illusion, but you are immune to illusion. But you don't know that the composition of illusion is far from simple. You have become unable to distinguish the boundaries between reality and falsehood, and you are starting to go crazy." Suliang frowned while listening to the system's simulation. After many simulations, Suliang rubbed his forehead and already knew the Queen Mother's goal and calculation. The key point is still the charm of illusion. Muttering softly, Suliang continued to deduce in his mind, and soon, he deduced the perfect route that was currently feasible. And at the same time, on the other side, throwing the rope on the ground, Qin Binjao, who had been bullied badly by Suliang, rubbed her red wrists and said angrily, "Humph, you are such a bad man, you actually treat me like this. I will ignore you tonight." After that, he turned around and left, as he went to find Sister Ying. Originally, it was okay for the man to tie him up, but after he was tied up, he actually continued to play like this. Although it is indeed exciting and comfortable, how can you let people accept such a shameful thing? Seeing Qin Binjao leaving, Suliang had no intention of stopping her. Not long after Qin Binjao left, a maid came and said respectfully, "Mr. Su, the Queen Mother summoned her and ordered my maid to come and invite Mr. Su to see him. Lead the way." Suliang straightened his clothes, waved his hand, and followed the maid to the appointment calmly. "Oh, since you want to see me, then I will meet you, a noble lady who cares about the world. I want to see if you have any other ways to deal with me." At the same time, even after returning to his palace, Yang Kaoj did not relax and was always observing the Queen Mother's movements. "You mean, the Queen Mother summoned Mr. Su alone?" Yang Kaoj asked after listening to the report of the person in front of him. "You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womeng. Chapter 209. Yes, Your Highness. The man responded very respectfully. Okay, I know, you can go down. Yang Kaoj nodded and waved the reporter to leave. And just after the palace door closed, a beautiful figure appeared from behind Yang Kaoj. This beautiful figure is named Yefei. She is a female general. She has a good figure and appearance. She has a slim figure, a proud peak, a flat belly, long and beautiful legs, and a beautiful appearance. She looks somewhat similar to Yang Kaoj. At this moment, the female general was dressed in a snow-white military uniform. Under her short skirt, her slender legs were wrapped in white silk, and her small feet were wrapped in straight boots, which seemed to make her slender legs even longer and taller. If Suliang were here, I'm afraid he would think that this is completely a new era cosplay costume. It looks astringent and capable, which makes people want to stop. She is absolutely a beautiful lady in military uniform. At this moment, Yefei said with some worry, when Mr. Su goes to the Queen Mother, will he be tricked in the same way? Your Highness, do you need the general to stop him? After hearing this, Yang Kaoj pondered for a long time before shaking his head and saying, there is no need for this, we just need to trust Suliang. Because, if we can't even deal with him, then there's nothing we can do. Now, we just have to be patient and wait. In the Queen Mother's palace. Suliang, I have met the Queen Mother. Suliang entered the palace and saluted respectfully. Coming. A magnetic and hoarse voice sounded, and there was a hint of laziness in the voice. Suliang looked up. A graceful figure was lying on the bed, none other than the Queen Mother of the Great Xia dynasty, Qin Wanyu. Qin Wanyu's face was absolutely beautiful, but her brows and eyes were full of charm, and the corners of her mouth seemed to be thin, with a charming smile. However, in this charming place, there was a kind of majesty left, which gave people a great sense of oppression. It looks more graceful and luxurious. Just like the charm flowing through her body, but also the extremely oppressive and majestic temperament, contradictory, but perfectly integrated, making people unable to help but feel excited, but at the same time trembling with fear. At this moment, she was wearing only a tulle on her exquisite figure. In the hazy moment, the tall and proud peaks and the round figure behind her, with obvious outlines and confused details, gave her a vague sense of beauty. Even though she was only wearing tulle, Qin Wanyu still looked extremely respectful. Her majesty seemed to overwhelm the heaven and earth, with a full sense of oppression. In the room, the inexplicable fragrance of incense was refreshing. Qin Wanyu looked at Suliang standing in front of her, with a strange light shining in her eyes. At this moment, Suliang, who had entered the palace, knew in his heart that he had entered the game. To be honest, this was the first time he had seen that an illusion charm could be used for this purpose. From the incense in the room to the activated illusion, the Queen Mother lying on her side on the bed was interfering with Suliang even in her words and deeds. It was so hard to guard against. The Queen Mother called me here, why? Suliang asked softly. Although he was under the charm of illusion, he was not panicked at all. Fortunately, I knew all this through simulation and was prepared in advance. What kind of illusion and charm? Come on, it's not worth it at all, okay. It's not a big deal. The Queen Mother shook her head, I just want to ask you to come and have a chat. While talking, Qin Wanyu also kept observing Suliang. She was very confident in her illusion charm. Until now, she had never been seen through by anyone. How could Suliang be able to resist it? Therefore, Qin Wanyu was very confident. However, soon, she looked at Suliang's still clear eyes, which did not appear to be trapped in illusion at all, and found that the charm of her illusion was of no use to Suliang. How can this be? Qin Wanyu was very shocked. Her illusion was not an ordinary one. Every link in it was so intertwined that the person who performed it could not even detect it, and even the most skilled illusion master could not undo it. Even for those who have special physiques and are not affected by illusions, Qin Wanyu is confident that they will be affected. It's just Sul Yang, how could he not be affected? But at this moment, Sul Yang suddenly said frankly, "Is the Queen Mother wondering why I am not controlled by your illusion? Oh, I have my own way. If the Queen Mother wants to have a good communication with me, just put away the illusion." "I don't understand what you are talking about." Qin Wanyu blinked, pretending to be innocent, and even got up with a worried look on her face, walked to Sul Yang, and stared at Sul Yang closely. Next moment, Qin Wanyu actually stretched out her hand, held Sul Yang in her arms, and asked with concern, "Are you too tired and hallucinating? How could I use illusions to harm you?" While talking, Qin Wanyu's voice is magnetic, slightly hoarse, and her face is soft, but full of charm. Even her movements are gentle and gentle. I am afraid that few people will not be moved by this charming look. However, Sul Yang was unmoved at all, and spoke out again to expose Qin Wanyu's purpose. "The Queen Mother cast an illusion in front of me to manipulate me. I think the Queen Mother should put away this little trick, it's useless." Hearing this, Qin Wanyu's body trembled slightly, and she subconsciously let go of Sul Yang, took 2 steps back, and looked at Sul Yang with fear. Not only was this young man not affected by his own illusion, but he actually saw through his own illusion? What is he doing? At this moment, looking at Sul Yang in front of him, Qin Wanyu felt that he could not see through this young man more and more. "Forget it, since I've been discovered, let's give up tonight's plan, otherwise, if something happens, it will be very troublesome to deal with it." Thinking in her heart, Qin Wanyu was about to leave. But right now, Sul Yang suddenly took action, grabbed Qin Wanyu's waist, and held Qin Wanyu tightly in his arms. Immediately afterwards, feeling the pressure of Qin Wanyu's proud peak, Sul Yang picked up Qin Wanyu's chin with his fingers, and moved downwards, seemingly invisible, across Qin Wanyu's body, touching the front and back from time to time. With a direct backhand, he came to tease the Queen Mother. At this moment, Sul Yang was openly taking advantage of the Queen Mother. I have to say that although there was nothing visible on the surface, Sul Yang was still a little disturbed. After all, this is the Queen Mother of such a huge dynasty, the kind of mother who honors the world, and she is just a talented disciple of Tiandao sect. The late emperor passed away, but the Queen Mother was taking advantage of him and letting him rise and fall in the arms of his immortal sect disciple. Tisk tisk, this Cao Thief has exploded, okay. Is this what it feels like to bully the Queen Mother? Love it, love it. And Sul Yang was a little confused when he saw that the body of the beautiful woman in his arms was trembling slightly, stiff and not daring to move, with a blushing face. This Queen Mother is obviously very mature, why is she still so immature in her movements and not responding at all? She is obviously a noble lady, but she is as green as a little girl. Could it be that this is called contrasting cuteness? I have learned, and played with my girlfriend and sister another day. Then, being held in Sul Yang's arms, Qin Wanyu was being teased by Sul Yang, but she couldn't muster the strength to resist. She just bit her lips and resisted silently. Later, her eyes even turned cold. Finally, Qin Wanyu warned, "Sul Yang, do you know that what you are doing now will lead to death?" However, warning is useless. Instead, Sul Yang's movements became more domineering. With another forceful movement, Sul Yang lifted Qin Wanyu's chin and threatened, "Woman, put away your little thoughts, I am not something you can scheme against." Hearing this, Qin Wanyu looked at Sul Yang blankly. After a moment, she unconsciously turned her head and stopped looking at each other. Seeing this, Sul Yang felt relieved. With these actions, he finally succeeded in frightening the Queen Mother. After Suliang left and disappeared completely, Qin Wanyu still stood there, thinking carefully. Qin Wanyu knows best how powerful her illusion is. She has been in the Daxia Palace for so many years, and even the Emperor of Daxia has been charmed by her. Moreover, in the past few years, she has not failed in anything and has always been charming. Even until he died, he didn't even know that the great Xia Emperor had never slept beside him. But such a powerful illusion was of no use to Suliang, but he saw through it. This is simply unbelievable. Who is that young man? He has such outrageous methods. And just then, Volume 1 Chapter 195, the simulation is restarted, the country is destroyed, the people petition, and only children make choices. A cold and charming killer lady appeared quietly behind Qin Wanyu. Her voice was cold and calm, as if she had no emotion. I'm going to kill that boy. However, Qin Wanyu shook her head and refused. No, there is something wrong with this kid. We can't figure it out yet, so we'd better keep him instead of killing him to avoid disturbing the situation. After sending the cold and charming killer lady away, Qin Wanyu returned to the bed and lay on the edge of the bed, recalling Suliang's appearance and his extremely bold actions just now. Moment. Qin Wanyu's body seemed to have a strange feeling, as if that fiery palm with irresistible power was still on her body. Qin Wanyu's cheeks turned red with embarrassment as she bit her red lips lightly. However, for some reason, Qin Wanyu always felt that Suliang's behavior just now had a sense of déjà vu. Why, his movements, the feeling he gave me, were very similar to that person in the dream. As he kept thinking, Qin Wanyu had deep doubts in his heart. After leaving the Queen Mother's palace and returning to her own residence safely and soundly, the one who came quickly frowned slightly and began to think. Although the real confrontation with the Queen Mother was only this time, Suliang had simulated it many times and was very aware of some of the Queen Mother's methods. Possessing such a weird and outrageous illusion method, and being surrounded by a killer who, even at the dragon transformation stage, could not resist him. In the end, he could only be seriously injured and could no longer interfere with what happened next. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womeng. Chapter 210. The power behind the Queen Mother seems to be no small matter. Before everything is clarified, it is best not to provoke the Queen Mother easily, so as not to alert the enemy. Especially now, with his master and girlfriend away, Suliang felt that he should be more cautious. Otherwise, if you are not careful, it may overturn, triggering a crazy counterattack by the Queen Mother and the people behind her. Even though what he did tonight temporarily shocked her, it was not enough. Rather than completely offending the Queen Mother, Suliang felt that it was necessary to stabilize the Queen Mother and the forces behind her. If possible, turning the other party into a support was also a way. But, this all requires strength. Suliang rubbed his forehead, feeling a little headache. Before, he felt that the speed of his strength improvement was not slow. Coupled with various methods, his combat effectiveness was very good. This strength should be pretty good. But now it seems that in such a high-end occasion, my strength in the dragon transformation realm is still a bit reluctant. Now, his best way to improve his strength is to actively start a simulation. And since my new binding object is the Queen Mother, according to past experience, as long as I turn on the simulation, more or less, I can not only learn more about the Queen Mother, but also have some influence on her. So, it's not that I want to start a simulation. There's nothing I can do about it. Suliang muttered softly, while comforting himself. He contacted the system and proactively started a new round of simulation. What? Mr. Su has already left the Queen Mother? And he doesn't seem to be affected at all. The female General Yefei stood in front of Ying Kaoj and asked in such shock that her voice was somewhat distorted. For Yefei, This incident was like a fantasy. She had seen too many people who were stronger than Suliang, and they all fell into the Queen Mother's trick. How could Suliang be fine? Why is he okay? Because he had been keeping an eye on the Queen Mother's movements, the news of Suliang's departure from the Queen Mother's palace naturally appeared on Ying Kao's desk immediately. Indeed. Ying Kao nodded without explaining too much. There was an inexplicable light flashing in his beautiful eyes. Oh, if you can resist her methods, I can finally confirm that this Suliang is qualified to cooperate with me. And just then, dong dong. There was a sudden knock on the bedroom door, and Ye Fei disappeared immediately. Ying Kao straightened his clothes and then said, "Who is it?" "Sister, it's me who wins." Qin Benjiao's voice sounded from outside the door, and then the door of the palace was opened. Qin Benjiao walked in, threw herself directly into her cousin's arms, and confided, "Win sister, Suliang is too much. He bullied me and played with me. It's a shameful game. If someone is angry, just ignore him tonight. Hey, Sister Ying, how about I sleep with you tonight?" However, what Qin Benjiao didn't expect was that Ying Kao seemed to be thinking for a moment and suddenly said, "Benjiao, let's go, I will take you back to find your Suliang." At this moment, Qin Benjiao looked confused. "What's going on? I came to ask you for trouble, but you want to take me back to see my boyfriend. Why don't you let me admit my mistake in advance?" The fourth simulation began, and the boundless darkness gradually swallowed up Suliang's consciousness. After what seemed like a long time, the darkness receded, and Suliang opened his eyes in a daze. However, the first feeling was an extremely soft, warm, and delicate body being held in his arms. Subconsciously, his hands moved around, and the proud peak, flat belly, and roundness behind him all appeared in his hands. Suliang's eyes widened, and in front of his eyes, a beautiful face came closer to his face. She has a beautiful face, pink and red lips with a sweet and charming smile, a high nose bridge, a pretty face with a crimson color, and charming eyes like silk. She is so charming and natural. Your Majesty. The charming face's red lips parted slightly, and a charming voice with a bit of hoarseness reached Suliang's ears. "King. Who I am? Where am I? What the hell is the king?" Suliang blinked in confusion, only to feel that his consciousness was hazy, as if it was covered with a veil, and the whole world could not be seen clearly, and a dream-like feeling lingered in his feelings. For a moment, he couldn't tell whether it was him or someone else. Immediately, Suliang tilted his head and rested his head on the charming sister's beautiful legs. Feeling the softness, elasticity, and smoothness of the beautiful legs, and the faint fragrance lingering on the tip of his nose, Suliang fell into a deep sleep again. With the beauty in his arms, the king will not come to court early from now on. Early morning? Just kidding, no lady is interesting. In the Long Dynasty, there was a king who indulged in beauties for 10 years. He only wanted peace and prosperity for the country and the people, and he did not hesitate to delegate power to his ministers. But as everyone knows, the dynasty is about to fall. Human greed is endless. And this greed can lead to a huge crisis that can change the color of the world. Finally, on this day, a rebellion broke out in the dynasty, and countless people started their own actions under the banner of King Jun. Before the king, the civil and military officials from all over the dynasty are gathered together at this moment, with solemn expressions and resolute attitudes. They are all willing to do this. "King Jun, please kill the demon concubine to clarify your ambition. Please, Your Majesty, kill the enchantress to show your ambition." All the civil and military officials shouted loudly. The sound was like thunder, as if it would make the sky tremble. "You want me to kill my Meiji?" Suliang stood in front of the civil and military officials with his hands behind his back, his expression calm, even his eyes did not waver at all, and it was impossible to tell what he was thinking. "Yes. The civil and military officials gritted their teeth and continued to wish, "If your majesty doesn't kill the enchantress, I'm afraid my dynasty will perish." The meaning of the civil and military officials is very clear. If the enchantress is left alone, there may be no country. Whether for one person or for a country, this is a decision that does not need to be considered. No one thinks that the aloof majesty will have other choices. But he wants them all. Oh, what kind of choice is this? I want the people, and I want the country too. Children only make choices, I will never give up on one. Say it. Suliang turned around and returned to his bedroom. But in the palace, the enchanting concubine Meiji, who was said to be a disaster for the country and the people, and who was determined to kill Yi King Jun, had a calm look on her face at this moment, holding a short knife in her hand. She is ready to die. This short knife was prepared for herself. Suliang came to Meiji and saw the short knife in Meiji's hand. He took it over naturally, put it in his hand to play with, and said puzzledly, "What are you doing with the knife? You want to cut some fruits really? Just leave this kind of thing to the maids." With that said, Suliang threw the dagger aside and said, "Meiji, go get me the robe and put it on me." Meiji looked at Suliang's face with hazy eyes. After a moment, she turned around and left. She took the shirt and put it on Suliang one by one, bit by bit. The shirt was not too complicated, but Meiji's hands were gentle and meticulous, and her slender, boneless hands were arranging and smoothing Suliang's body, with a gentle smile on her face. This gentle smile blended with her natural charm that seemed to be innate, and became extremely soft and charming, just like a gentle wife arranging her husband's clothes, warm and harmonious. Even though Meiji was so charming at the moment, she still couldn't bear the slightest evil thought. Looking at her, her heart was already filled with love. After Meiji arranged her shirt, Suliang smiled, held Meiji's hand, and asked curiously, "Meiji, there are countless armies surrounding the city, and there are hundreds of civil and military officials who want you dead. Are you afraid of it?" Shaking her head, Meiji's most beautiful face bloomed with the most charming smile, "I am not afraid. What I want is to follow the king. We will live and die together. I will never regret it. Even if I die, as long as the king is here and the king still remembers me, I have nothing to be afraid of." Hearing this, the Soviet Union twitched the corners of his mouth and showed a smile, then held Meiji's hand tightly and said, "Let's go and meet those who want our lives." Say it. The two held hands and walked out of the palace slowly but firmly. Even though they faced a seemingly certain death situation, the two of them remained calm and calm. They even had a smile on their faces. Occasionally, when they looked at each other, they could see the tenderness and determination in each other's eyes. At this moment, the army is densely gathered outside the city, and the city gate is about to be lost. Outside the city, there are armored horses and frost blades everywhere. Passing through all the civil and military officials, Suliang took Meiji's hand, climbed up the city wall, and said softly, "Meiji, let's go on stage with me to watch a big show." On the city wall, when they saw Suliang and Meiji ascending the city wall, someone immediately shouted and cursed, "You are a fool, you linger on the bed of Meiji, and you have not gone to court for 10 years, causing the people to live in dire straits. In our great dynasty, there are many disasters, natural and man-made disasters. This is God, and he is dissatisfied with you. Hunjun, we are here this time just to clear your side. If you are willing to kill the enchantress next to you, we can retreat and we will never break our promise. But if you don't want to, then don't blame us for offending me, I'll kill that enchantress for you. This is also for the sake of our vast dynasty and the countless people. You stupid king, why don't you surrender quickly?" But having said that, who can know clearly that this so-called King Jun's side is just a cover? Before Suliang could speak, Meiji held Suliang's hand tightly with a sad smile on her face. "It is my blessing to meet the king in this life, but please don't do it for me, do stupid things. I have understood the king's thoughts. Even if the yin and yang are separated from now on, I will never forget the king. I will be there waiting for the king. Meiji. Suliang wanted to speak, but before the words came out, Meiji interrupted Suliang and continued, I also ask the king to fulfill my last wish. I don't want the king to die for me. Your Majesty, stop doing stupid things for my sake. Ah! Suliang chuckled, pinched Meiji's smooth face, and shook his head with a smile. Immediately, he turned his head and faced the countless rebels outside the city. He put one hand on the long sword at his waist and muttered to himself, want to kill my Meiji and seize my dynasty. Just, for you. Suliang's voice was so low that even Meiji beside him could barely hear it. But for some reason, at this moment, his voice suddenly appeared in everyone's mind. Almost everyone felt the anger and disdain hidden in the heart of the king who had not been in court for 10 years. Angry because you want to touch my Meiji. And disdain. Even you are worthy. For my beloved, one man and one sword guard the city gate. Even if there are thousands of troops, they can only bow their heads in front of me. This moment. Everyone saw that the king standing high on the city wall emerged with a domineering aura that could shock even the heaven and earth. This aura was as frightening as a strong wind blowing. Immediately afterwards. Base. There was a crisp sound of swords, and the sharp sword energy suddenly appeared, flashing with bright light. The sharpness on the sword energy was about to cut the sky in half.